you only own three assets in your business. Well, when it comes to marketing, you own your website, you own your domain, you own your email list, and you own your knowledge, your IP. Everything else is somebody else.
Thank you for joining the Free Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines. Our guest this episode is Chad Smith, CEO and founder of Five Lions Marketing, who's also a specialist in constant contact. We talk about general concepts of marketing and especially email marketing. Here's Chad. Thanks for joining us, Chad. Where are you calling in from?
Oh, wow. I'm from right here in Frederick, Maryland, the state with the greatest flag in the whole United States.
Fantastic. That I think Laura DeFranco, one of our recent guests, she's from up in that area. And what we talked about is the advantage. I did a video called I think it was called The Power of the Gathering. They can look it up. But you're in a highly dense area where there's a lot of creatives where you can meet. What's the networking scene like up there? I would assume you've got a lot of minds, a lot of people you could meet with up there to get mentorship, coaching, and training.
Networking is amazing in Maryland. I am a member of two chambers of commerce, the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce, the Frederick Chamber of Commerce. I'm in a very high performance BNI group, if you're familiar with the BNI organization.
The classic, yeah.
And there are no end to networking mixers here where I live. So there's usually one every week, at least one a week that I could go attend. I haven't had a week to where I didn't have an opportunity to go shake some hands and kiss some babies.
I love it. We're not seeing, I think a little bit of it dried up here. As people know, I'm in the Orlando area, and there's not as much. Orlando was a happening town. Tampa had a lot of things going on. I hope that wheel gets turning back again, but I know up north, because of that much denser population, and you've got people, you could reach out to expertise if you need somebody in videography, if you need somebody in physical coaching. You've got a great, I don't know, something about that area where you're at just draws a lot of incredible talent. So I'm envious that you have those people around.
Think about it. I'm like an hour from DC.
That's right.
So, of course, that's a center, that's a hub of a lot of talent, right in the nation's capital. So I'm very fortunate to be able to be, if I want to go get that big city experience, I can go there. Like, for instance, about 3 months ago, I was at the National Black Chambers event, and it was a massive event. It was at a place called the Park in DC. Amazing event, like 3 floors of nothing but professionals. That's where I met the person that hooked me up with Constant Contact, and which enabled me to become a Constant Contact partner.
That's fantastic. You were reading my mind. My first question out of the gate was something that I think doesn't get discussed enough. How, as for any type of business, whether somebody's in fitness or coaching, how important is it for people to have an email list on a scale of one being not important, 10 being absolute essential?
I think it's 10.5. I think it's absolutely important for probably about 95% of the businesses that you can be in. And here's why. Because you only own 3 assets in your business. Well, when it comes to marketing, you own your website, you own your domain, you own your email list, and you own your knowledge, your IP. Everything else is somebody else. So if Mark Zuckerberg decides to say F you and shut down Facebook, and you've built your entire business on Facebook, you're screwed. If Twitter goes down, you built your business on Twitter, you're screwed. But my mentor, Pat Rigsby, from a long time ago, back in my fitness days, he taught me that if it all goes to hell and you've got your email list, you can always rebuild your business, no matter what.
I believe it. And it's not mentioned enough. We have people that are, particularly people, I can only speak for the people younger than me. They are spending a lot of time. Whereas my generation, we're on Facebook. You can almost tell somebody's age by the
Right.
social media platform that they use. Just like, I know this sounds like a strange phenomenon, but I'll bring it up. I deal with a lot of people on a daily basis where we're talking about emails and people are providing me their emails. And without looking at their birthday, which I do have access to in the file, off of their email address, off the domain of their email address, I know what generation they are. So we still have some people that come in with a yahoo.com, which is
Or
amazing.
AOL.
Yeah, AOL going further
Yeah,
back. Earthlink, I still see
right.
some of those. And then you start to see the Gen X's have the Gmails, and then there's things beyond that, Proton Mail, which is newer. And it's just funny how there's a difference in those, and you can almost tell the generation by the domain of the email they use. But people under 30, they're now so heavy invested into Instagram and TikTok, they're not building that email list. And I've said to people, and I mean this very sincerely, that I would rather somebody have a mediocre product. In other words, I'm always trying to push people, get your minimum viable product out there. You don't have to wait. If you wait until it's perfect, you'll never go into business and you'll never do
Right.
anything. You'll have to
Exactly.
start somewhere, launch it. And I'd rather have somebody have a mediocre service or product idea, but access to a big email list than somebody who's got a great idea and they don't know anybody. And I always give the McDonald's example. McDonald's, is it the best hamburger in the world? Absolutely not. It's not, I wouldn't even call it good anymore, but they're still everywhere because they understand marketing. Now, do you work better with people that have a business that already has an email list and then you help them leverage the power? Well, tell us, actually, for the audience, tell us what Constant Contact is and why it's such a powerful tool.
Constant Contact is one of the innovators in the email marketing field. They were one of the OGs, and they recently dramatically improved the product to the point to where it's a standalone marketing platform, not just email. So, but to your point, that it's really important to have an email list. It's just because people say, well, I only have, 200 people on my list. I'm like, that's 200 people that you get to talk to every week, like that are just listening to you for that 5 minutes out of their day. And the more consistent you get with your email program, the more trust you build. The more trust you build, the more things you can sell. So at the end of the day, um, the average open rate for an email is about 20%. Um, if you combine that with text, looking at like 90%, you can't get that on social media. Like,
Text is getting hot again. Not to go down a rabbit hole, but text is getting hot. SMS marketing was hot 10, 15 years ago, and then I don't know, regulation, people got it. And
right.
you can speak to this. There's trends in marketing. Something that was hot 10 years ago will come back. Another thing that's on fire, people are sending postcards again.
Yeah,
Mail went out years ago. People started throwing everything away. But when something's no longer popular, it becomes a powerful tool all over again.
exactly. Yeah, when you combine power of email, power of SMS, and then if you can combine that with direct mail, like you create an ecosystem, because it takes multiple touches. Some people say different numbers, but the bottom line is like hit them at every angle, you know? Don't just do email. Like you have to do email, and you got to do some tech marketing. And if it's right for your business, do some Google ads go along with it. Do some direct mail to go along with that. But because 80% of your competition is not doing any kind of solid marketing, maybe even higher. Out of 10 people that you would call your competitors, maybe like two or three are really doing some really active and aggressive marketing. So your competitive field is not really that competitive. If you do one thing really well, you're ahead of half your competitors. You do two things really well, you're ahead of most of them. You do three things really well, you're the boss. And if you do it consistently, you're gonna kill them. So to your point, those things are super important. But you own your list. That's the most important part. You own your list, and using tools like Constant Contact, or if you like MailChimp, whatever you like, just use something and learn to use it really well.
What do you tell people that the two problems are? They don't know what to send to a person every week. They don't know what to send to that email list. And number two, the obvious problem, if somebody has no list, how do they begin? What do you normally advise people?
I know you talk about an hour on each of these things. The first thing, if you don't have a list, is ask your audience what they want from you. You know, I don't know what to write. Ask somebody. Ask them, like, what do you want? If I made this thing, would you want it? What's your expertise? Like, if you're, let's take, for example, if you're in the fitness field, what's trending right now? Um, are you going to talk about Ozempic? Or how to manage a nutrition plan, how to manage a training program while you're on Ozempic. Ozempic's hot right now. Just make a pre-Ozempic checklist, things that you want to do with your body before you get Ozempic, or maybe talk about how to strength train to keep from getting the Ozempic flaps. Getting the Ozempic flaps. How to train, build. So think about that. Like, what questions do people have about trending topics? It's a cheat code that I use. It's Neil Patel's website. It's called Answer the Public, where you put in 3 keywords and it gives you all the questions that people are asking about that topic. To where it gets who, what, where, when, how, why. It looks at all the questions that are being asked online about the topic you entered. That will give you endless content, and it's current and trending, up to date.
YouTube will even tell you what people are asking for, kind of in the space of what I'm talking about in these interviews. It's suggesting, people are looking for this, looking for that. So yeah, in a way, give the people what they want. Whereas an artist, if you're a musician or you're a painter or you're a photographer, do that thing you love. But if you want to pay the bills, you have to give the people what they want.
No, and that's a mistake that I see a lot of people make, is that they give people what they think they want, or what they literally would want. But I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, literally ask your audience what they want and then create that thing. Everything that you mentioned is viable. I've found, and I don't make any money off this, but I've found that with a tool like Answers in Public, it's all right there in one area. It takes account for everything that you just talked about, and it puts it in one visually pleasing resource that you can expand on with each question that you want to answer. Then, of course, utilizing AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude or whatever you like. Once you and get really good at using AI, like, don't just ask, I'm a trainer, I'm an insurance guy, what should I write about? Nah, man, like, you have to go deeper than that. Most people are scratching the surface of what these AI platforms can do. I've spent about the past like 2 years really deep diving into it, consuming resources on how to use these platforms. And what I found is that AI is a lot smarter than what people really understand. They have no idea how powerful this tool is. It's really cool, but it's also really frightening in some ways. But the more you help it understand how you want it to respond to you, the way better the quality will be when it does. Like, I have my AI trained to the point where it, I'm confident it will literally write better copy than 90% of the copywriters in the world.
Oh, wow. Now, Chad, that's
Yeah.
impressive because I used it I have the paid version of Chat. Full disclosure, I have the Chat GPT paid version. I think it's 4.0 or whatever it
Oh,
is.
me too.
And I've trained it. So when we talk about training it, I'll give you what my version of training it is. It has my entire book, and I told it to memorize because it used to just answer the question, and it would not have that question or the answer in its database. So I've told it, when I discuss, to keep everything in its memory that we've talked about. So it's building this database of it. It knows my podcasts. It understands what I do with this. I've explained it all. I've sent some transcripts of the videos, so it's trained on what I'm trying to do. It's given suggestions. Also, too, the whole book is in there. So it knows when I say, hey, by the way, I'm going to have a question about scintilla, it'll answer, oh yeah, your book on, and it's just proving that
Oh, that's
that it
awesome.
remembers it. I will say that I'm surprised to hear that it does so well with copywriting, because I I used from a writing standpoint, the only thing I used AI for is a little bit of research on some of the topics. And then if I had 2 points that I wanted to put into one chapter, I wasn't very good at combining those two ideas. In other words, like a bridge paragraph to bring those two ideas together. AI helped, but the writing it was doing, I was like, I can't put that in the book. I had to really go in and
Okay.
it didn't write in a way that I was like, I wouldn't buy that
Sure.
book. So I had to, and not that I'm some great writer, but that's fantastic. What I wonder, did you have to use a particular, because you've got chat and then you've got those extra programs. I forget what they're called inside of chat. Is that what
Right.
you're doing to get that copywriting?
In ChatGPT, you can create custom GPTs. Inside of Gemini, you create gems. And just so everyone knows, these are pre-programmed um, prompt threads that you don't have to keep typing
I
out
see.
every time. You know, you do it once and then you can keep improving it over time. And if you ask it in the right context, it'll actually improve it for you. That's the brilliant part about it. To go back to the question, I want to make sure that I answer your question. But that's how you can create endless content is once you have all the data, all the trends, all the questions, now you can leverage your AI program to create endless content. So I like to create series to make it easy. So instead of trying to think about a topic for every week, I'll get one topic and I'll break it down into 4 parts, right? So that does two things. It makes it easy for you to create content and you don't have to do it as often and it also makes it more engaging for your list. So, tune in next week where we're going to explore part 2 of this. You know who does that really good? Preachers.
Oh,
Preachers will have 4-part sermon series, and then they'll keep you hooked. They get you to come back next week,
that's right.
right?
Ecclesiastes. We're going to go over the whole,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're going to talk about this thing over the next 4 weeks. Do the same thing with the email marketing. That's how you get them engaged, and that's how you keep them
that's
coming
right.
back next week. Tell them what you're sending them next week. The goal of marketing is to move people to give you money in exchange for your transformation that you're offering them. Like that's the bottom line. It's not about, likes, comments, clicks. It's all about the bottom line is how do I move them to make a decision to pay me money to create transformation. And that's it. Now to go back again, if you don't have a list, the way to create your list, again, to create something that someone wants and then post it everywhere. You can do a paid campaign, for your thing. You can go to network events and offer your thing in exchange for their information. Just do whatever you have to do to build that list. There's no magic formula. Just everyone you talk to, get them on your list. And next thing you know, you're going to have like 500 people on that list. That's it. It's that simple. And then start talking to them. That's the bottom line, really. The one thing that I try to coach my clients through is just take daily action. Like that's the bottom line. Like, how do I do this? Uh, like you said, you get paralyzed by perfection, right? And it's just get out there, just go meet people and just go take action. When I'm building a business, I like to get as many no's as I can a day. Hey, do you want this thing? No. Great. Hey, listen, I'm doing this thing. Want to be part of it? Yes. Great. Come on in. Hey, I'm doing this thing. Want to be in it? No? All right, great. How many no's did I get today? If I get like 10 no's, chances are I got 2 yeses. Right? So I know I got to get through 10 no's to get 2 yeses. And as you get better at offering your thing, you get less and less no's. You get more and more yeses. But you got to get out there and you got to you have to offer your thing every day for hours, right? Until you get to the point to where now you got some money, you can automate that process. Get some ad campaigns, attract more no's, so you can get more yeses on a broader scale.
You had mentioned earlier that you had a mentor. Can you tell us a little bit about how he helped change your life?
Man, I've had numerous mentors. I've had several mentors just because um, even when I was 10 toes down in the fitness industry, a lot of folks may not know, but I was in the fitness business for over 20 plus years, owned a few gyms, had a nutrition brand. And, but even when I was like speaking on stages, I got some industry recognition, helped develop a couple of really cool things, but I still wasn't done learning. I still wanted a mentor at every level that I got. Like no matter what, even when I was acting as a mentor, I still had a mentor. Just because no matter, I always say, no matter how good you get, there's always somebody better. Like find that person. If you're the smartest person in the room, go find a bigger room, a room that's going to be full of people who are going to challenge you. Um, People get too caught up with believing their own press, right? And then they stop learning. If you stop learning, you stop growing. But the first mentor, actually, he was a contemporary, but he, blew up at such a fast pace. I was like, dude, teach me what you're doing. His name's Pat Rigby, and we met in it was a forum for personal trainers called Personal Trainer U a long time ago. Some people may remember this if you've been in the business like I was. It was called Personal Trainer U, and um, this group what created what I consider the greatest generation of fitness professionals in history. People like Adam Rigsby, Bedros Keuilian. I mean, like almost anyone who's about my age who's still hot in the field today. They came from Personal Trainer U, but I really respected what Pat was doing as far as his consistency with his marketing, his writing, his content creation, his client acquisition. And I was like, bro, like you got to teach me what you're doing. So we became partners when he and his partner Nick Berry created a company called Fitness Revolution, and I became one of their coaching clients, and I even named my gym Fitness Revolution Hagerstown. So it wasn't a franchise; it was a license, and that's where I learned the power and the necessity of systems. Systemize everything that you do on every level. Everything should be a machine. So that way you don't have to be doing all the things that we tend to do as entrepreneurs. People say, I wear a lot of hats. Then you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. If you're wearing all the hats, you need to get some more heads in that business of yours. So that was the main thing that he taught me was the power of systems. Systemize everything and write out what the systems are. So that way, number two, that just make your job easier. It also makes it easier for you to teach that system to someone else. So now you've duplicated yourself. You've read the book, The E Myth by Gerber,
E-Myth Mastery. That's a great, great, great book. Read that one and the Revisited. I think for
right?
every small business owner or somebody that's even thinking about getting into small business, get that book
It's
because
a
it
great resource.
demystifies a lot of people go, especially their first business. They go in with a lot of, I think, misconceptions, and that book breaks them. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Well, the first level of entrepreneurship is you basically own a job. You're a technician, so you go off and you're going to go change the world. And next thing you know, you realize, man, I should have kept that job. It was easier because now I'm doing all the work and, I own a job, but now I have to take care of the back end, what my employer took care of. So you just want to do the job, but now
That's
you have to
right.
do everything else. So, the system to help you get from technician the manager, right? That's the first choke point, right?
That's right.
So how do I get there? Business is closed and they go back to work because they can't get over that choke point of how to become a manager, how to hire, how to manage a team, right? And how to manage a high performance team. The second choke point is how do you get from manager to owner to the point where now I've hired a manager that manages the team and that manager reports to me. Choke point. The biggest choke point there is they can't relinquish control. That was the thing. And then, of course, you get from owner to entrepreneur to where now maybe you're growing businesses. Now you have a franchise, maybe, or you have a license. So that's the biggest choke point because sometimes we get pulled back into those roles because the systems weren't solid. So now we're getting frustrated. And again, that's the biggest thing that I learned, and the biggest thing that I like to teach my clients now is how do we prepare for growth? So if you're here, you want to get here, you have to look at that choke point, and you have to be able to build a system to prevent that choke point from happening.
And of course, any business needs to have three elements. It needs to be profitable, scalable, and duplicatable. And everything that you've been talking about is the duplicatable aspect of it, because if you systematize, you can, like you've got the Hagerstown gym, you can go over to the next town over and the next
Do
town
the
over
same
if you.
thing, right? Do the same thing here. Do the same thing here. You got to have the system. And like you said, and I agree with your 3 points. I call it money, marketing, and manpower. You got to have money, got to have marketing, got to have manpower. If you don't have any of these three, you're going to crash. So you got to have all three working for you, at the right points. Money, marketing, manpower.
If you went back in and started that gym in Hagerstown all over again, what would you do to get members in the door? Just a quick synopsis to give people an idea, particularly if you don't mind answer that question in the context of what would you put online to entice them to put their email in that little block. I think that's something that will really help a lot of people to understand that.
First thing that I would do now that I didn't do then very well at all, um, actually, I didn't do it at all, is I would be very purposeful and I would focus a lot on search. I would focus a lot on local search. Before I did ads, I would focus a lot on search. I would focus a lot on content creation, like uh, part of my language, a shit ton of content um, targeted towards answering the questions and providing quick wins for people who consume it. Quick wins. That's the thing. That's what I think about now when I build up content. Is how can I give quick wins to people? How can I get them a victory within like 24 hours? How can I make an impact within a day? No long term stuff. Um, I think that would be it. I would focus a lot on search. Uh, Google is changing a lot of things right now with search. Some of it's good, some of it's going to be a challenge, but it's still a powerhouse. People still go to Google to make their decisions. I find that people will start their search now on social media to get opinions, but when they want to get answers, they go to Google. Um, so I would focus a lot more on search, and I would focus a lot more on just creating killer content on a regular basis because most people are not doing that. So what your competitors are not doing, do a lot more of it, and
And
you're going to stand out.
and that goes to working in a niche. And people are probably beat to death with that. But even Alex Hormozy, who's in the fitness and marketing space, he says that
He was actually one of my mentors when he was in the fitness space.
and he's, I can't, just like any guru, I'm not 100% on board with everything he said, but that book, $100 million offers, I think that's a great book. He really breaks down how to reach out to people and how to he's one of his things that gets repeated the most is he says, make an offer so good that they'd be stupid. They'd feel crazy not to accept it. And I think about that in terms of just getting someone's email. And I see now that a lot of times, like coaches, there's a lot of coaches online, they'll give away some freebie. So in the old days, people might just be interested in the material and give you their email. Well,
Right.
now they've been trained. You're essentially paying them because you're creating a piece of content. Here's Chad Smith's top 10 hits to grow your business. Just insert your email here. So now people are expecting a stronger enticement, which leads me to the next point that
And
go ahead.
it takes more time now also. It takes more time. Like hardly anyone is going to go to your landing page and opt in on their first time
That's
because
right.
they're gonna see your artwork, they're gonna go back, consume more of your content. They're gonna go check out a lot more of your resources, and then they'll come back and take a second look at it, and it'll stay as a tab on their laptop, right? That's progress. They didn't close it out. Then they'll go back, and then they'll read some more, and then they'll come back, and then they'll finally opt in for your thing.
And that costs money, that doing all those impressions. So if someone, and this is why having a niche is so important, especially with the cost of marketing for the cost of everything has gone up in the last couple of years. I don't even have to explain that. We're all
Right.
suffering every time we go to the grocery store or fuel up. We're whoa, and that's inflation at work. But the other thing that we're seeing too is that if you're not specific in your niche, if you just have a gym or you're just a life coach and that's it, you'll take anybody. The marketing, if you're not specific in your niche, the marketing is cost 10 times as much. If you're in a niche, if you're a life coach who's seeking busy single professional single mothers 25 to 35 years old who work multiple jobs in the Northeast region of the U.S. Now your marketing is going to be better. It's highly targeted,
Super
and it's going to
targeted.
cost less money. But because if you just put life coach, you better have if you're just life coach and that's what you're going to put out there, that's $1 million because the shotgun approach doesn't work anymore these days. You need to really drill down. I mean, I feel, are you seeing the same thing when you work with your clients?
I think it depends on what industry you're in. Like if I'm an HVAC guy, I don't need to target, super deep. I just need to target my town and people who don't want to be hot. The people
That's
who
right.
or people who don't want to be cold in the winter. I think it depends. I think for um I think for people who really want to specialize, say if you have a medical device for doctors who treat a specific cancer. I mean, of course, yeah, you're going to niche down, you know, to the gills. But there's some people who do have broad appeal, and there's some people who speak a specific language. Um, like if you want to be a trainer that only wants to work with women between 35 to 45 who are thinking about getting on medical weight loss, that's your niche, right? But then you also have coaches who just want to work with women between the age of 35 and 45. Or you just have coaches who just want to work with women. And they can all do very well. And I don't think there's a huge difference in expense as far as like that range. Um, but but to your point that the shotgun approach where like if I want to sell my marketing services to just anyone and everyone, right? Not only is it going to be more expensive, it's going to be less effective because I can't speak a specific language. So I like to work with people who are in the fitness industry because, that's where I come from and that's the native language that I speak. Now, that's not to say that people who are outside that industry don't reach out to me. I can help them too, but I like to speak, that language. I'll work with almost anybody, but I really love people who are in the fitness field. It excites me, because it's like a kinship. So yep, to your point, no, you're absolutely right. The more targeted down you can get, if it fits your business, better results you're going to get.
And I was thinking about that before the interview, Chad. That was another question that I had about fitness. Most of the driven left brain type A entrepreneurs I know, they're all into fitness. I noticed this intensity amongst entrepreneurs that tend to gravitate towards high impact sports or high impact fitness. Was that part of your journey?
Yeah, it was. I spent my high school career in wrestling, and I got out and I got into professional wrestling. So I
I
spent
love
about
it.
20
Yeah,
plus years in the ring. And then I got into jiu-jitsu. But I always liked combat sports. And I was never like a boxer because I never want to get punched in the face, but I like to, get my hands on you, and wrestle around a little bit. But I think, here's why I think a lot of entrepreneurs tend to be fitness guys or fitness girls. I don't want to be sexist. I think because the discipline of training translates into everything else. The discipline of learning a grappling art translates into everything else. The discipline of competing in like a CrossFit competition, it translates into everything else. And I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs tend to gravitate towards fitness because it's another discipline master. And a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs that I know, they are they 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 have this tremendous discipline to them. And I'm not saying everyone should wake up at 5 a.m., but they wake up at the same time every morning and they have a routine. They get up, they read, they drink water, to do push-ups. Then they get into, their journaling. Then they get into their plan. Then they have a block of phone calls. Then they do email follow-ups. Another block of phone calls, more email follow-up. Then they get on social media. Then they produce content on social media. Then they respond to inquiries, right? So I think discipline of training, it's just like the discipline of business building. So it goes hand in hand.
And I think that's a great recipe, Chad. The way you just described that morning, I think that's an extremely productive beginning of the day. That's why I was smiling. I said, "Yeah, that's how you make money right there. Do those actions and wait to, put off going to social media to consume." And it was actually that fake video. There's a YouTube video out there about a Russian mobster. Well, they find out now that he's just an actor from Iceland or something. But he does this video, which what he says is true. It's just they had to make him a mafia guy for people to be interested.
Have to buy in, right?
That's right. And he says that the people making money are producers. The people that don't have a lot of money that are struggling, they're consumers. So every time I pick up my phone, I now, thanks to this fake Russian mobster, I'm thinking to myself constantly, am I consuming or am I producing? Because if I want to make money, if that's the goal, which is one of many goals, I mean, obviously we need money to live. There's other things I like to do through the business as well. But if I'm consuming, I'm spending money or I'm spending my intellectual
losing
energy.
money.
That's
Right.
right. And the opportunity cost that I could be using
Right.
for my business. So yeah, especially early in the morning when you're at your, for me and probably for you too, I'm at my best in the morning. I had one person I interviewed a couple of weeks ago that they actually are more productive in the evening. But a lot of entrepreneurs I know, the mental clarity and everything that happens in the morning is incredible because you're not carrying the burden of all of the thoughts. Your cousin called this, you by the time the sun goes down, you're weighted down with all of the conversations. So at least for me, and it sounds like for you too, the morning is a real golden period to be
Well,
productive.
what I found, what I found for me, um, is that I have to have about a good 3 to 4 hours, um, first thing in the morning of the solid, deep work, or else it does not get done. And then I'm frustrated, right? Because I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be. So I have to get all that deep work done first thing, flat out. And then my afternoons are appointments, and I can relax and I can take this appointment. I'm not worried about all the things that I didn't get done all day. Because I used to have appointments all across my day, from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. And then I would have um, intersections of work. And by the time I would start really rolling, getting into the deep work, I had another appointment. So, that momentum would stop. So I had all these stop starts. So now I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just gonna listen. If you can't meet with me in the afternoon, then we're just not, you're not my ideal client. Because I have to get the deep work done. And when I started doing that, is when I started to see growth in my business. Because I had momentum and I had it for hours now, but getting so much stuff done. So now, admittedly, my next challenge is I want to read more. So I have to create time to read more. So my goal now, I want you to hold me accountable to it. My goal now is to read for 30 minutes in the morning. Get up, get a cup of coffee, get some water in me, and then I'm going to read for 30 minutes every day because I say I'm going to do it at lunchtime, and then I end up reading for like 10 minutes, then I get pulled into something else, right? So that's my goal is to be able to read like 30 minutes a day first thing in the morning.
I interviewed a guy named David Figueroa, who's also a YouTuber. He was born in Puerto Rico, had cerebral palsy, and he's got a channel that he does with entrepreneurs, usually with a disability aspect. But he's just launched a second podcast where he's interviewing classic wrestlers, and he's getting some great guests on there. So if
It's
anybody's
awesome.
interested in that, check out David Figueroa. He was a great guest, and he posts regularly and really engaging content. But I love podcasts too. I but if I'm trying to solve a problem, going back to what we talked about before, I think about the antidote.
Simplicity.
That's right. That's right. I want that. I want the formula. If I'm going to bake something or cook something, do I put the salt up? Where do I want to know bang, 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 bang. And that helps me a lot. Like I said, and I have to give a lot of credit to a lady named Joanna Penn, who writes a lot of books about people who write books. She's the how to market your book, how to do. And I think I read maybe 4 of her books in addition to some other classics about writers. And in one of her books, she finally just said, just get started. And of course, that was the impetus for getting the book out there. And I'm sure, Chad, you probably have a book inside you too, right?
You know what? I'm in that process now. That is something that I'm working on. It's going to be called the elite acquisition method. It's all about the framework that I've created for my clients to help them attract, engage, and empower their clients do bigger, better, greater things in their businesses.
That's fantastic. Do an audiobook version, please. And a matter of fact, if you look on my channel, I just interviewed Robert Lane, who's an audiobook coach. That's what he
Okay.
does. So he will help you narrate your own book and make sure
Well, well,
he sends you the
I'm just going to pay you to do it. I'm just going to have you do it.
my voice is okay. I have to work to neutralize my accent. Otherwise, I talk, I have to make sure I have to enunciate and pronunciate. And I love my native accent. Don't get me wrong, but as a communicator, I want, I want people to understand me. But if
Right.
you catch me if I'm tired and I'm angry, you'll definitely be able to tell where I'm from.
Well, it's so funny because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I have a slight stutter and a bit of a
Oh,
lisp. But well, I'm glad because I worked very hard, like you said, to
yes, naturally.
aim that and to become better communicator. So I've learned to control my speech and you know and neutralize the best I can
Yes.
those impediments that I've had since I was a child.
Well, there's a credibility in imperfection. When people get up, like when people go to talk in front of people, like the classic group, the Toastmasters and things, the classic advice always was get up and tell a joke, or really you're going to do some, I'm trying to think of the word, self-deprecating humor, where you kind of make fun of yourself. And there's a relatability in imperfection. So I would say embrace that, because I think there's a legitimacy to it. Because like Hormozy, like when I look at Hormozy now, um, it's easy for people to poke fun at him because he's rich now. It's like, and he gives advice, and you're like, yeah, you make 100 million a year, of course, yeah, just buy a plane or buy. He doesn't say things like that, but
Right.
that authenticity that people bring with that little bit of imperfection, I think humanizes you. And look, we're in the age of AI where everything is perfect. So I think, my accent, your potential impediment, I think those are bonuses really in this era.
I can believe that for sure. You know what? Maybe I'll bring back the stutter. I'll bring it back.
I
I'll
love,
make I'll, I'll
I
make it up.
love it. I love it. Chad, was there any questions that you wished I had asked? I always like to leave that open just in case there was
No,
something
why
we
didn't this
missed.
guy ask me this question? Why
Yeah,
didn't this
I
guy
know.
ask me a question? No, man, no. Thank you for having me on the show today. It's a good time. It's not very many people who I would get up at 8 a.m. for on a Saturday for, So
I appreciate
this
it.
was well worth the time.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I
But
wanted to make it worth the waking up for. Chad, how can people find you? I always want to leave off with the ways that they can connect you. And of course, we'll have in the description your links as well so they can locate you.
yeah, well, you can find my Five Lions marketing agency at www.fivelionsmarketing.com. That's all letters, no no numbers in that. So www.fivelionsmarketing.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
And we'll
Find me
and,
there.
and we'll put that
Yeah,
on the screen
post
as
that
well.
link.
And when is your book coming out?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to that. We're gonna check back with you and see when you've got that. But yeah, I would encourage you to, because absolutely, I mean, with as many years as you've been in that, and there were aspects of the book that were very enjoyable. The editing part, I had some help with that because that wasn't the fun part. Imagine cutting an album, going into the studio. That part's kind of fun, but the mixing and
Yeah.
mastering after,
The
it's
back
not.
end part.
It wasn't, yeah. And you
No
can
back.
get AI can help you obviously too, but I've gotten a lot of help off of Upwork. As a matter of fact, Javon, who
Mm,
edits these episodes, I met him. He's a very talented editor. He's on Upwork. He still gets a lot of business through that website. And there are ghostwriters too that can empower you to get through that book faster because they know how to build bridges between those chapters. That was one difficult thing for me is how am I going to lay out this material? Because I had to give people the background of what I was trying to deliver first and kind of the science, and then I could go into the tactics and techniques. So yeah, I would encourage you, get that book out.
All right, I'll do it. All
right. Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on the Free Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines. To support the channel, please click like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode. The book Scintilla, The Ultimate Guide to Generating Business Ideas, Products, and Services, is now available on Amazon. It's available as an ebook, softcover, and hardcover. Please find the link to the Amazon page in the description, as well as other links relevant to this episode.